Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Ramadan Mubarak. So, in the screenshot I shared with you, we see the typical stereotype of the feminists attacking motherhood and marriage. Okay. Now, the trope that feminists hate children, it's quite apparent, to be honest. I think this has been shown by me ad nauseum and by others extensively. And so, when you see a headline saying motherhood is a trap, marriage is a bad deal, we must examine, so what is their solution then? Well, not having kids, barrenness, not appreciating fertility, sterility, and it even says right out, learning to be selfish. Now, some of the worst mothers are those who put themselves before their children. Your child, when you're pregnant, and then when they before they get into kindergarten, right? Those prime years, your kid really needs you to protect them from predators, to protect them from choking hazards, all kinds of problems in nature. You are their spiritual guide. You provide them with nutrition. You're breastfeeding them, changing their diapers, bathing them. It is a noble duty, a responsibility that you will be held accountable for on the day of judgment for how you treated that child. Okay? You need to be selfless. Alright? And good moms, they look like depleted. It's like sleepless nights. They're being graciously patient. They are really putting it all in because they know they have someone's childhood in their hands. Okay? You want to get that kid off to the strongest start possible. You want them to be safe in a peaceful environment, in an educated environment, and where they can explore the wonders of this earth and protect them. Right? That's our duty as women. To be selfish is to say, you know what? My kid is gonna not bathe for several days. I'm gonna have a fresh face of makeup all the time. I'm gonna stuff that kid in a daycare while I go work out so I can have a new sugar daddy on the side. And it's all about me, 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 me. And the kids look like I'm totally feeling neglected and abandoned. And it's like, where's my mom? Who the hell is this lady in the daycare? Why am I with all these strange kids? And then you go pick them up, they come running to you crying. You are their hero. Now, as they get older, past 18, they fly the nest. They may never come back. And if you abandoned them when they were young, can you really blame them? And so, if as a woman, when you become a mother, you are supposed to change. It's no longer about you. I don't want to be with my kid right now. I want to go do this, so I'm going to put them over here. I remember seeing an OnlyFans girl. She was upset that the daycare called her to come pick up her sick son. And she wanted him to stay there so she could go film content. And she uploaded this video, and it was so horrendous, just how she was insulting her own kid, calling him annoying, a burden, all this nasty stuff. And you think to yourself, why didn't this woman get on birth control? Why did a man get her pregnant? That poor boy has a video of his mom basically saying how much she resents him online for the world to see that went viral. Talk about nightmare fuel. And the mom is clearly selfish. Mothers being selfish is what creates wickedness. Alright? You need to be fighting for your children and living for your children. Don't get lost in the sauce where you forget how to be who you are, but you are a cocoon. You will blossom and morph into a new person, and you can't go back to the shell of who you once were before them because you have allowed your body to be a portal to facilitate a soul entering into this world. And that is one of the greatest miracles and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing can compare. I don't care how many AI robots and sex robots and drone military robots you show me. Alright? Not gonna compare. your body grew this human and now they're looking at you. Wow, that's a blessing. No matter how much the feminists try to hate and attack motherhood. To hate motherhood is to hate mothers. To hate motherhood is to hate children. Okay? To hate motherhood and slander it is to hate pregnancy. This puts women very, very low. Okay? People ask, why don't women get maternity leave? You know, why don't we get more of this and more of that? Because people attack motherhood and don't value it. So to be a feminist who hates motherhood, you are systematically helping people to push mothers down and make life harder for women. To help women disrespect pregnant women. You're helping the disregard for pregnancy rise. Right? And so there will be a time where your relationship is strained. The man and the woman come together, create life, and they're both going to have their own personal struggles while you raise these children. But it's only for a time. And then before you know it, you're in your apartment, you're in your house, your kids have their own families, and you're waiting to see the grandchildren on the weekend. And you have so many hours in the day to dedicate to what you want. Right? So when you look at how many years you have on Earth and how much of that is spent per child when they're super vulnerable and needy, it's so small. I mean, by the age of 7, kids are like, you know, they're rocking and rolling. They're able to entertain themselves, write, and do stuff. I mean, when they get into high school, you're guarding them from other things. They can make their own sandwiches. You know, they're taking showers by themselves, right? You know, you don't need to always be on top of them with basic tasks, right? So you have more time to do things for yourself. When you have a newborn, a toddler, a preschooler, kindergarten, I would say like up to 5th grade, these are years where it's more of like creating memories that will help them into their adult life. And you're passing on traditions that they will give to your future grandchildren, inshallah. So, motherhood is one of the greatest challenges women face. No corporate job can compare. And so, to mock it, to shame it, to slander it, to bite at it, to try to destroy it, to try to make it seem like it's not worthwhile, in my opinion, you're only serving shaitan and you're denying the beauty of life itself. People will look at like a rare sea turtle putting eggs in the sand, right? They'll, oh, that's amazing, National Geographic. Those same types will turn around and not see human pregnancy is that big of a deal, even though it really is. And the suffering women face in the hospital births is different than the suffering they face at like a very peaceful home birth. But both show you the different shades of motherhood and how we suffer to bring life into this realm by the permission of Allah. And that it is very rewarding. Very rewarding. And so, women should not flock to feminists like Corey and Mare. They should flock to women who have been salted with the trials and stresses of motherhood. I think those are the women you should look to. The ones who you go to when things get hard. Not the ones who tell you to never start the hard journey. Further, she contends marriage is a bad deal. Without marriage, a committed relationship, because, I mean, now that I've started to look at it, okay, let me follow this here. Hillary Crowder, she had twins, she had a full live-on nanny, living the high life, married to a famous man. She's going to get, they said in the court documents, $25,000 a month for 18 years from her marriage divorce. How did marriage not benefit her? If she would have never married Steven Crowder, ain't no way she would have earned that money herself. Just not possible. She's just not that kind of person. She married a guy who had potential, who blew up, right, got so much money, and she now gets child support off of his labor. She wasn't some full-time mom. She had a nanny, okay? Rich lady had a nanny. She slimmed down real fast, and from my understanding, was not breastfeeding full-time. So it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? The nanny's changing diapers. Like, you are doing what? And so, marriage was a good deal for Hillary Crowder because she got rich from it. Now, she did post on Twitter/X, oh, I need to work, and Steven said he wanted a stay-at-home mom, but I'm about to be a pauper. It's basically, I'm being a bit facetious, but you get my point. She was making it sound like she was about to go on Section 8 housing in the most violent hood in America possible. When in reality, she's going after more money. She wants more than $25,000 a month from Crowder. Okay. Wow. And she married as a virgin and was a Christian, so. Pretty horrible deal for Crowder. Marriage was actually a bad deal for Crowder when you look at it. But he's wealthy and famous, and if he's smart, he can just get another woman. But marriage benefited her. And divorce was supposed to be, like, when you get these benefits from divorce, it was to help, I think, real women who were struggling and in poverty and gave up their careers and put their life on pause. And they were Barbara the Builder. They helped build a man by protecting and guarding his children so that they could have a proper role model. And while the man was climbing the ladder, the woman stayed low, and if she leaves with nothing and ends up in poverty, then she would truly struggle. And if she doesn't remarry, she's going to have a rough go at it. So I think those laws were intended to be used for good, but they can be manipulated by a very smart, savvy Jezebel. And when a feminist tells you marriage is a bad deal, I think what she's really getting at is the monogamy, and that she would prefer women to be able to sleep around and have open relationships like what Destiny the streamer had, so that the woman is allowed to get ran through and take a Russian roulette gamble with STDs and have 4 different baby daddies. You know, that's kind of what they seem to be hinting at. Because marriage, in the classical sense, denotes exclusivity. When you're not married, there's more of a less of a legal punishment for adultery, right? And why now, when we have so many single mothers, and we have the data that children fare better with their fathers than their mothers in a divorce, and lots of people who are in prison were raised by single moms, and how boys struggle when they don't have a father figure. If we have that data, according to the atheistic feminists, why then would you tell women not to marry, right? Why would you tell women that they will benefit from not getting married? Because this is an attack on the conservative classic Americana of marry very soon. It used to be, maybe you can still find it if you do a deep dive, but Christian ladies upon their college graduation, sometimes even high school graduations, they'd have a wedding engagement ring, or a promise ring they'd call it, and then they would be holding up their hand with their little graduation hat. They focused on marriage. That was very common amongst white Mormons and Christian sects. And this made it so where they could start having children younger and having large happy families that were connected, and it made less stress on searching for a mate. Whereas the feminist, it pushes marriage off till like 30, 32, then uses IVF fertility stuff or sperm donors. and that's their route. So there's a different mating strategy there. And if a woman wants to have more than one child, and recover properly from each one, starting in your late 30s is going to be a bit rough. You start at 20, you can have more children, but there's a lot of liberals who are against large families, like against you having more than 2 kids. They want you to be able to play the market well, and the less kids you have means the more men you can sleep with and be less of a baggage burden. When you have more children with a man, you're basically telling him you're the one, because it's super difficult for a woman with like 5 or 4 kids to become a high value, what we're gonna call like a I don't want to say high value, but a good man's wife if he has no kids himself, right? It's gonna be quite difficult. If you're like a 29-year-old guy, I don't think you're gonna marry a 36-year-old who's got more than 3 kids. Like, that's a heavy financial cost. And a lot of these women who are looking for men starting at the age of 33, they themselves, those men with money are looking at 20-year-olds. So there's this dilemma of corporate success, academic success, with fertility, youth, beauty, and a less traumatized nature. The older you get, the more wise you get. But if you've taken the feminist route of non-monogamy and you've jumped from relationship to relationship to relationship, you replay those fights, those random arguments, those cringe moments in your head, and it affects the way in which you deal with the man. And personally, I think it also makes you more of an ice queen, because you become more rigid, like you've seen under the curtain. And sometimes, if you're not careful, it can make you more combative. So if you get married and you put your all into it, and if you fail and you try again, you learn from your mistakes, that's still good, but the goal should be to be married, because there's a commitment there. There's an oath being pledged to that person. And I used to think, marriage is just a piece of paper. Joe Rogan talked like that. When I used to really think his opinion meant anything, I was like, yeah, it is. And I stayed with my husband for 10 years before I actually decided to make it official with a marriage contract, right? And I used to think I don't need it, but then when I examined it, I realized, hold up. When you sign marriage papers, it changes the relationship, because now you see, like, it's more binding. When you're just living, like, cohabitating as a boyfriend and girlfriend, you can just dip with no legal repercussions, and so the ropes of your relationship are not as strong. And this changes the way in which you view that person and treat relationships in general. And so when I see a feminist saying marriage is a bad deal, I think they're getting at, you can hop on to the next relationship easier if you don't get married. And this means that women are not fighting with as strong of a commitment, which is more risky, because when you feel like you're committed, you fight for the relationship more, or you forgive more. But if you're not as bound to the person, you will tolerate less and flee faster. And so, if you combine, motherhood is a trap, marriage is a bad deal, you should be more selfish, this puts you above your relationship that you made with this man, and your relationship to him as a wife, and your relationship with your children, because you're their mom, right? It's putting you before your husband and your children in the worst sense, right? There's different when a mom says, I need you to babysit the child while I go and do a spa day. That's quite different. You need to have your me time to decompress and relax. But to be selfish outright, I think that breeds into, like, what they would call personality disorders, or some type of sociopathy, something inverted. Because if a female pig will try to munch on me if I take her piglet and hurt it, why then wouldn't a mother see her helpless child who's a human and think, I need to protect this little human. I want to do what's best for this child. And some of the best moms are those who put their children first. Before the husband. Before themselves. Yes, you have to make sure you're taking showers and all that. I get it. But there will be times where a mom wants to do something but can't because she has to think about nap times, about the tight schedule, and she has to be able to endure that loneliness and isolation. And when she comes out of it, she's essentially become stronger because she's gotten through the flames and she's come out more versed in what motherhood is, and she'll be more of a beacon of light for struggling mothers in the future. A selfish mother is not someone you want to take advice from. A selfish wife is not someone you want to take advice from. If you want to help women be better moms and be better wives, you need to take advice from those who served and for those who verbalized their needs as well, but didn't see them as the most important thing in the world, right? Sometimes in life we'll have to do things that only benefit someone else and don't benefit us. Or seeing everything as, what do I get? It can be problematic. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give us our reward as Muslims in the hereafter. Or He's swift in accounting. Knower of all things. Nothing goes unseen. He knows what's within our chest. Actions are judged by intentions. We have to do things for the sake of Allah. And so, be mindful of that. Reflect and learn. Reflect and learn. Let me know what you think. And if you'd like to join the channel, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.